Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on sports and its holistic effect on child development. I'm excited to introduce our distinguished speaker, Mr. Saumil Majmudar, co-founder, CEO, and managing director of Sports Village, India's leading sports education organization dedicated to getting 100 million children to play and thrive. Since 2003, Sports Village has partnered with schools, parents, brands, and governments, impacting over 6 million children across more than 18,000 schools. Today, Mr. Majmudar will explore the overall benefits of sports, busting common sports myths, enhancing cognitive, emotional, leadership, and physical development, navigating 21st century challenges in sports, effective strategies to motivate children to be more active. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Saumil Majmudar as he shares his insights and passion for using sports to empower our children. Enjoy the session. Over to you, sir.
Is a stepping stone. There are no paper leaks.
Hi, good morning. My name is Saumil Majmudar. It's a pleasure to be here. Over the last 21 years, since 2003, we've been trying to get kids to play, and also then wrote a book also called Get Kids to Play. The whole idea of how do we kind of enable a generation of kids to play and experience the magic of sports. And today in this session, we are going to talk about two pieces. One is the whole why of sports, which has components around physical, cognitive, and so on. And also equally importantly, the how of sports, which is very often a more relevant challenge for parents. Many parents are convinced about the why sports, but are struggling with the how sports. And that's how the book also got created. Helping me in this session, who unfortunately can't be seen here, is Ashwini, uh, who's helped to put this content together as well. Hi, Ashwini.
Hi,
And
Sonia.
our premise overall for the last 21 years has been that sports is a part of education. And it's maybe appropriate that there are two IITians here. I am from IIT Bombay, Ashwini Kharagpur. We're both here to talk to you about sports. And therefore, I think it's an important reminder that sports is important as much as academics is important. It's possible to balance. What we're going to do today is to talk and build on the lessons that we learned over the last 21 years of getting kids to play, focus on the why, and also on the how, and therefore how we've been able to, through the EduSports program, work with so many kids over the years. So we're here to share our experiences, but again, just to be clear, we don't have all the answers. But it's a problem that has to be solved, and we are here to try and solve it. And the best way to solve this problem of getting kids to play is a collaboration between the school, parents, kids, and maybe people like us who can be catalysts. And that's why we're excited to be here uh, in the Katan Schools webinar, talking to parents who have expressed some questions. We're happy to see the question that we got from the survey. Thank you again. So let's get started. I think let's talk about first the overall context of the benefits. Broadly, there are four areas we've kind of brought them into: physical development, cognitive, social skills, character building, and mental and emotional well-being.
Just a second, I think there's some glitch.
No problem. You want to go to the third slide?
Yeah.
So, and this data, I think one of the important pieces that we've been trying to do is to bring data into the conversation. A lot of times, the discussions around sports become very subjective and opinion driven. And what we've been trying to do is to bring data. This data that you see is data from our annual health survey, which has covered more than 100,000 children across the country. And you can see that improved fitness, improved motor skills, better immunity, reduced obesity, overall from sports, but also what the graph shows you that when there are more than two PE classes per week, versus less than 2 PE classes per week, there's a clear improvement. And therefore, it's not just having the PE class, how many classes are you having inside the school, and can we have more than 2 PE classes? There's a clear improvement on multiple physical aspects: upper body strength, lower body strength, flexibility, aerobic capacity, anaerobic capacity, and so on, right? That's one important reminder of the purely physical benefits that are fairly intuitive, but data is also backing that up. Want to go ahead? The other piece is cognitive, and there is this whole view, and we'll come to the myths later on, that playing sports can hamper academics. On the contrary, there is clear research that shows that perceptual motor intervention, which is, think of it as play, physical activity, sports, has had a positive impact on reading and spelling abilities, even if it at a very young age, and therefore enhance concentration, better academic performance, problem solving skills, because that's what sports gives the child in a real fun context. And therefore, it's extremely important to understand that sports can help build academic performance and not take away from it. Like with anything else, there is a notion of balance, and we'll come to the balance later. But the cognitive benefits are a very important outcome of sport as well. And a lot of this data is available. We're happy to share with you separately. If you want to write to us, we can share that as well. Go ahead, Shwini. This is something, last two, social skills, character building, and mental emotional well-being are two things that are becoming even more important today. It's a kind of almost unfortunate reality of society that we are facing a lot more challenge on those fronts, that we also need to add to the physical challenges we have. And we found, and we have data assessments done over the years, that teamwork, leadership, discipline, confidence improves as kids participate in sport, and they learn how to deal with failure. I would rather have my child, I have two kids, I would rather have my two kids learn about failure in a sports ground than to learn about failure in a 10th standard board exam. So, how do we get them to experience failure, how to deal with failure there, as against have some of the unfortunate things that are happening given exam pressure and other contexts? On the mental and emotional well-being, I think again there's lots of data around it, but essentially play, physical activity, sports helps reduce stress, improves the mood, improves sleep quality, which then creates a positive effect for next day's engagement, releases endorphins that help have a clearer mind. And there are enough benefits, and overall, in a lot of cases, and we'll come to that in a minute, sport is being used even to help kids with emotional challenges as an intervention as well. So I think there's data around how social emotional learning wise, how kids are able to deal with problems better, handle conflict better. Kids who have been through physical activity as against kids who are not having physical activity in sports. So, now we're going to jump into a few myths that we have heard over the years, and I'm sure if there are points or questions, please do drop in. And maybe we'll see if there's a poll around some of this stuff. Do people believe that sports distract from academics? Uh, and our reality that we believe is that it actually improves academics. It's boosts concentration, focus, memory. And I think important piece is to think about sport as a supporting structure for the academic experience. The academic experience requires discipline, requires time management, requires problem solving, requires ability to deal with failure and trying again. It requires you to stay with the problem long enough. And that's the supporting structure that sports provides to our children as they're navigating this tough academic world.
So, I would like to pull some focus on the actual statistics and what the data is uh, available around us. As many of you might already know, that Harvard University is broke the record last year at Paris Olympic, securing 13 medals, maximum number of medals by a college in one Olympic. And it's not just Harvard breaking it one year. Ivy Leagues in total have total like 503 medals. And this data in itself goes to say that sports and academics don't need to be mutually exclusive. And uh, it's not just one data point that it's just Harvard or Ivy Leagues. There have been research done by multiple university, Oxford University and Carnegie Mellon University, which shows that children who are involved more in sports have better academic performances than children who are not. So there is a lot of data and studies supporting it. And as a parent, what you can do to get your child more physically active is encourage short active breaks during their study hours, which helps them refocus their attention when they sit back to study. Continuous sitting on a longer stretch of time studying does impact how much they are able to focus. So short active breaks help them refocus on the studies very much, and I can personally vouch for that advice.
Actually, talking of personal stories, I should, on the same point, narrate a small anecdote. I was selected for the Maharashtra badminton team in my, middle school time, but like a good middle class kid, went down the academic side. And when I cleared JE and got into IIT Bombay, I thought I was this cool kid who's kind of played badminton at a senior level, state level, and then also cleared JE, and I would be one of these cool kids, and there'll be a whole college full of nerds around me, and I'll be this cool sporty kid who also kind of can solve a bit of maths and science. And as I got in, I could not make it to the IIT Bombay badminton team, which means it was a double whammy because one, there are eight people who are better at badminton in IIT Bombay than I was, which was fine, which hurt. But what stung really hard was that eight of them had better JE ranks than me. So they were not just better in badminton, but they also better in JE academics. So I think it at a very visceral level it reminded of me, and that's the message I want to give, that it's possible to balance sports and academics at a highest level as well. And Howard data is also showing us that at Olympics level. So I think it's important to deconstruct this myth that sports therefore academics will drop, or academic therefore no sports. Both can be balanced at a highest level. I think the problem is we are letting the kids off the hook by saying, "Oh, you want to play and party and go out on a break and do this and do this and do sports." No, if it's sports and academics, pick, and we can balance it at the highest level. Yeah, the other myth we heard: sports makes children aggressive. They experience intense emotions, and therefore that will affect their behavior downstream, outside the sports field. But actually, sports is really helps emotional control, resilience, situations it creates in a very safe environment of play where the downside is limited, where the failure is just one match that's gone. It's not a life stage. It helps them with the emotional control. It helps them with resilience. It also helps them becoming what we call becoming a good sport, right? And therefore, it's important to recognize that there is a benefit around the sports from an emotional control perspective.
So I totally agree with Saumil and the research that sports helps build and teach emotional control and resilience. And this is one of the quote by Michael Phelps, who is a great swimmer, who has said that swimming is a place where he can go and be himself and he can let his mind escape, and it's only peaceful and quiet. So for a lot of sports person, it is kind of meditative to get immersed in their sport.
I think it's important context in a world where there is so much of social media input, so much of uh, disturbance around the kids. How do we as adults help our kids get this safe zone, as Michael Phelps says, peaceful, quiet time, escape in your own head, let go whatever you need to let go of. And sports creates that, gives the opportunity. It's for adults like us to help kids get that experience and find that safe space where it's positive, it's energizing, as against the unfortunate negative content that social media and technology and everything else is created around our kids.
Uh, So I'll just share a research point. A study published in the Children and Youth Services investigated how sports intervention reduced aggressive behavior among children, and the findings indicated that the more the children participated in sports, there was an enhanced self control and discipline, which are crucial factors in managing impulsive or aggressive behaviors. And it is not just that, it is also that sports help build self esteem and confidence. At different levels you are able to master different level of skills, which in turn helps the child or anyone get a sense of self esteem or confidence. Playing any physical activity leads to a release of endorphins, which helps our body stay calm, reduces our stress level. And structured sports, when you talk about structured sport, not just free play, structured sports help us put aside the worry and focus on one thing. So it's not just focusing on winning the game or improving your skill, it's the habit of setting, just as Saumil mentioned, getting away from the distraction and putting your focus on the thing that you want to do at hand. That in long term builds resilience, builds an habit in children where they are able to uh, focus on what needs to be done rather than what is happening around the background.
And you're right, Prishaji, it also helps make them less hyper at home. Yes, thank you.
And as a parent, what can you do is you can support participation in sport where children can learn conflict, actively participate with the child in sport, and emphasize, talk them through being aware of those emotions. If you know your children well, you know what emotions they struggle with, so help them process those emotions by participating with them in some physical activities.
That's a good point. There's also research that shows that different types of sports appeal to different types of kids. If you think of sports broadly as one categorization is invasive and non-invasive sports. Sports like football, sports like basketball. It requires you to invade the opponent's territory, score a goal, and come back. Whereas sports like, let's say, volleyball, even though it's a team sport, it doesn't require you to invade. You stay in your side. So one, there are personality types which inherently go towards one or the other. Second, there are individual and team sports. So based on what you think your child is good at or is struggling with, there are different sport choices that you can make that can help give them the structure to kind of engage with the world better.
uh, there is something called as sports therapy, which a lot of parents and educators use to help children regulate their big feelings. There are children uh, who find it difficult to manage some feelings. So there is a branch of therapy wherein a lot of people use sports as a therapy, and you can find a lot of material online and look into it. I'll also like to share a data point. There was a study of around 10,000 children who have had bad childhood experiences from physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and the study was done on those 10,000 children, and children who were actively who took part in a team sport had better mental well-being when they were adult than the children who were not part of any team sport. So that goes to say that it not just improves it, it also helps us work around some difficulties that we have may or may not have faced in the childhood.
Yep, there's a myth that kids are just playing enough outside. They don't need organized sports, or my child is too young for sports. I think the important thing is to remember that children, from the time they're born, they start with play. As an infant, from taught baby onward, they're playing with the world, and that's how they learn, and that's how they engage with the world. In fact, play is defined as scientific experiments conducted by children. That's how they engage with the world. That's how they understand how the world works, how the world responds to what they do, and therefore play is inherent in across all species, not just humans. And therefore, playing. But now the distinction is free play and structured play. Free play has its benefits in terms of how it there's a lot of agency, a lot of choice around what you want to do. It has its downsides that the good kids at sports end up taking away all the resources, time, uh, equipment, attention, and the not so good kids, who are typically the 90% of the kids who are not the top 5 10%, struggle with being engaged, and they switch off from sport. And therefore the structure helps keep all the kids together, keep all the kids in the experience, in a positive experience. It improves teamwork and collaboration, helps them deal with handling pressure, and the structure makes sure that all kids learn, as against only the good kids learning more and the not so good kids, as the gap increasing. The structure helps reduce the gap. Structured sports also helps make the best use of limited space, limited time that you might have in your home or in your schools, and helps get the very focused learning outcome on that particular skill or sport.
So there are a lot of famous people, top level CEOs and leaders who credit their to credit the skills that they learned playing sports to the leadership positions that they have that they have managed or seen or been a part of. And there's a bombardment of actually research and articles on how sports help build social and leadership skills. I would like to bring to some attention a few studies done by economists, which they did some study on athletes and non-athletes, and athletes in their professional success were earning 5 to 15% more than the non-athletes. So it goes into say that it's not just physical aspect of being active helps, but it also helps us develop a lot more skills and hence the material outcome which is very much required in today's world. There is another study in which some ex-athletes, which shows that some ex-athlete in future did go up to achieve higher career status than the similar level non-athletes from similar background. So all these things in total brings us to focus how sports helps us build leadership skills out of the ground. And as a parent, what you can do is there's a lot of when we did go through the responses that you did share the part of our questionnaire, there was a lot of confusion about what to be done when it comes to my child structured sports free play. So combination of structured sport and free play works the best, because when in a structured environment the structure gives a child to learn social skills, emotional skills, sports skills, but in free play they have a ground to exercise and test those skills. And that is how learning testing going in that circle helps them bring the most of that physical activity or sport or that aspect of their life.
Playing sports can cause long-term joint damage or injuries, and I think injuries are a part of sport. I think we should acknowledge that up front. Injuries are also proof that your child has pushed the boundaries and maybe tried to do something that they're not sure about. Whether they do it or not. And all of us have scars on our elbows and our hands, which are proof that we tried to do something as kids and it didn't quite work out. Maybe the branch didn't take your weight. Maybe that the curve that you were trying to run with the cycle was too slippery. Something happened which you did not expect to happen, of course. And therefore you have a scar, and those scars are proof of you pushing the boundaries. The injuries are a part as you play and engage and you push the boundaries in the sporting context as well. I think the important piece from a reality perspective is that one, the activity has to be age appropriate so that their bodies can take the load that the sports experience is providing. And second, we need to have diversity. So over specialization is one of the biggest reasons why kids once have high injuries and therefore they burn out or they drop out of sport. And the diversity helps take the load of the sporting experience, spread it across the body. If you're playing football, different sets of muscles get used. If you're playing volleyball, different set of muscles get used. Cricket. So variety of sports gives you a variety of experience, and you will see later on leading sports performers have actually had a grounding in multiple sports experiences, including people like Federer and so on, right? Who played like Nadal played football before getting into tennis. I think it only helps them improve in their sport. So the way you think about it is, as a child, from let's say 3.5, 4, just think of it like a diamond. You expand your child's range of activities till like 12, 13, and then after 13, 14, you kind of start narrowing it down and specializing. But till from like 3.5, 4 till 12, expand, give them more options, let them explore, and then on their own they will start picking one or two.
So, bringing to focus injuries, what actually causes injuries is very early sports specialization and overtraining. Children are uh, when we are talking about sports, they are still developing. Their bodies are still developing, so they need a balance of everything around them, not just sports but nutrition, rest. They need everything in balance before they take up the things that they want to, they are good at, they want to focus on, passionate about, or any of the combination of what I said. So young age is where they need diversity. They don't need to specialize in sports. And one of the biggest reason that children might suffer from injuries is specializing early, which in turn adds stress on joints, tendons, and they are not developed to handle such a strain or stress. Other issue is poor technique or improper footwear. This you can we can add to by adding more research around what is the age appropriate activities, what are the age appropriate footwear for different activities, and reduce the chances of injuries due to technique or footwear. Other one aspect is a lot of children, they straight away go to playing the sport without going through a proper warm up or cool down, which are important aspect to get body ready to deliver a high intensity sports session and to get back to a normal normal. I, I'm lost of the word, but get back to that from high intensity to normal breathing, normal
Metabolism.
metabolism. Yeah. So cool down is also essential. So
Yeah, I
early
think it's
specialization.
important to remember. Sorry, go ahead. Ashwin.
Yeah, yeah. I was just summing it up.
So it's important to remember that the warm up cool down is relevant in a context of injury, which is typically when you are pushing the system. You know, occasional recreational play might not require warm up and cool down, but as those kids who are trying to kind of pushing the system in that session or an ongoing basis, bringing this into the practice is one important piece.
Yes. So to sum it up, early specialization, proper technique, warm up, cool down, nutrition, and proper rest. These are the five things which significantly improve, reduces the chances of injuries in children. Yeah. Manasvi, will you help us play this video?
Until I'm 7 years old to make sure I can do this, this, and this. Obviously, I can already do this stuff because I get lots of help. But loads of kids don't and are really missing out. It's called physical literacy. And we need you to help us as early as possible, so we can do all kinds of things when we're older. We'll try anything at this age. So now's the time to help us, before it's too late. Because if we don't learn these basic skills now, we might just give up. We might never discover what we could have been good at, and we might turn into couch potatoes. So fire us up. Inspire us. If you don't, you're asking us to settle for a life that's shorter and less healthy. And we don't want that, do we?
So, this was a video on the importance of diversity and physical literacy in young children. Before we expect or ask them to specialize, they need to learn uh, bunch of basic motor skills so that they grow up to, first of all, to healthy individuals, and second, being able to specialize in what they want to. So, I would what the research says is physical activity during formative years offers a number of health benefits like strengthen muscles, bone, improve cardiovascular health, and the reduced risk of obesity and diabetes in young adulthood. So it's playing sports as a child, not just the physical impacts is not just limited to a few years, but it also significantly impacts how your adult life is going to look like, because as I mentioned, the bodies are still learning about how to they are developing and learning about how to work with the environment. So in childhood, when they are playing sport, their body is learning to adapt. Their body is building that metabolism that can help them in the young adulthood. So getting children active at an early age helps them in young adulthood as well, with reduce obesity, diabetes problem, and other medical issues. What can you do as a parent is encourage diverse sports participation and ensure that the children follow proper warm up, cool down routines, and nutrition and hydration habits. Samuel, do you have anything to add?
Nope, nope.
Uh, okay, I think we have a question. So we have a Q&A session after we cover the myths. So I think Royal UVK, we can get to the Q&A. We can get to the question during that session.
Yeah. Yeah, but just go ahead and type out your comment in the meantime if you wish. We'll see if we can cover it as we're doing it. Thanks. So, the other myth we heard is this: only naturally talented kids should play sports. But the real idea is to think about sports as an experience that is fundamentally a developmental experience. It's fundamentally a part of education. And as much as kids learn English, history, math, science, they learn how to move, they learn how to stay fit, they learn how to have the fitness and skills to engage in sport. And therefore, all children need to experience play, not just talented kids. In fact, especially in a school context, it's very important to design the program so it's not just the school team that is playing, but all the kids are playing. Therefore, the structure, the age appropriateness, the assessment of each child, and therefore leading to the benefits around growth mindset, confidence, physical, mental health that we spoke about. I think all children benefit. So it's almost criminal to only focus the sports on the kids who are naturally talented.
Uh, so it is, I would like to point out what uh, sport is not just about the things that we have discussed. Playing sport helps us build resilience over time. As Saumil mentioned that his experience with children, he would rather have his son learn resilience by playing sport than a significant setback in uh, faced in life. So a lot of athletes, the top level athletes, they have missed a lot of shots, missed a lot of points, and that is how they learn to go ahead, show up, and showing up becomes an important takeaway when we are involved in any sport, and that showing up in turn leads to a lot of opportunities which we try to grab, and that resilient build over ages. What can you do as a parent is encourage participation over performance, and let children explore different sports at their own pace, like let children be themselves, and encourage participation. Yes, Saumil, would you like to summarize the holistic impact on a well-rounded
Sure.
individual?
The video you want to run on?
We'll run the video poster.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think the summary wise, just makes sense to get kids to play. All of us know it. I think this presentation is helping hopefully bring out those points with some more data that kids are happier, they're healthier, more confident, the physical benefits, mental benefits, cognitive, social benefits, and fundamentally the development of our child is our responsibility as parents and schools. And therefore, how do we make sure that despite the constraints, how do we make sure that kids have the physical activity and experience in a positive way so that they fall in love with play and keep playing for life as they turn into adults?
uh, we would like to play a video which brings into focus what we have discussed so far, and it's been presented in a really good way. What are the different benefits of sport, and why is it not just for the gifted ones? Uh, Manasvi, can you help us out here?
The victory of the underdog over the favored team, the last-minute penalty shot that wins the tournament, the high-energy training montages. Many people love to glorify victory on the playing field, cheer for favorite teams, and play sports. But here's a question. Should we be so obsessed with sports? Is playing sports actually as good for us as we make it out to be, or just a fun and entertaining pastime? What does science have to say? First of all, it's well accepted that exercise is good for our bodies and minds, and that's definitely true. Exercising, especially when we're young, has all sorts of health benefits, like strengthening our bones, clearing out bad cholesterol from our arteries, and decreasing the risk of stroke, high blood pressure, and diabetes. Our brains also release a number of chemicals when we work out, including endorphins. These natural hormones, which control pain and pleasure responses in the central nervous system, can lead to feelings of euphoria, or what's often called a runner's high. Increased endorphins and consistent physical activity in general can sharpen your focus and improve your mood and memory. So does that mean we'd get just as much benefit going to the gym 5 days a week as we would joining a team and competing? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Because it turns out that if you can find a sport and a team you like, studies show that there are all sorts of benefits that go beyond the physical and mental benefits of exercise alone. Some of the most significant are psychological benefits, both in the short and long term. Some of those come from the communal experience of being on a team. For instance, learning to trust and depend on others, to accept help, to give help, and to work together towards a common goal. In addition, commitment to a team and doing something fun can also make it easier to establish a regular habit of exercise. School sport participation has also been shown to reduce the risk of suffering from depression for up to 4 years. Meanwhile, your self-esteem and confidence can get a big boost. There are a few reasons for that. One is found in training. Just by working at skills, especially with a good coach, you reinforce a growth mindset within yourself. That's when you say, even if I can't do something today, I can improve myself through practice and achieve it eventually. That mindset is useful in all walks of life. And then there's learning through failure, one of the most transformative long-term benefits of playing sports. The experience of coming to terms with defeat can build the resilience and self-awareness necessary to manage academic, social, and physical hurdles. So even if your team isn't winning all the time, or at all, there is a real benefit to your experience. Now, not everyone will enjoy every sport. Perhaps one team is too competitive or not competitive enough. It can also take time to find the sport that plays to your strengths. That's completely okay. But if you spend some time looking, you'll be able to find a sport that fits your individual needs. And if you do, there are so many benefits. You'll be a part of a supportive community. You'll be building your confidence. You'll be exercising your body, and you'll be nurturing your mind. Not to mention having fun.
So I would like to summarize this holistic impact by asking all the parents attending today's webinar is, would you want your child to be more socially smart, confident, disciplined, and a long-term player? And if that's a yes, then what tools do you think is the best after today's discussion?
Yeah, we think sports can solve all the problems of the world, including development of children. We hope that after this, some of you also think the same. Go ahead, Ashwin.
Yes.
Yes, I think let's talk about all this is great. Let's talk about why is it not happening as much as we want. And broadly, we've seen five broad categories of issues that kind of are challenges against this whole holistic growth of children through the whole sports or play context. And one is the whole screen time. That's an ongoing epidemic. Uh, when we what we see mean the bandwidth issues is their time. Where what how much time do they have after accounting for academics and everything else? Lifestyle, which are more maybe individual nuclear families versus in larger communities, academic pressure, and of course, where do the kids play? Lack of access to play spaces. These are kind of challenges that we see while sports is great and it's good. How do we kind of, as adults, how do we help counter these challenges? Because these challenges have not been created by kids, but as adults, we need to then take the responsibility of solving these challenges or creating solutions that they could make the most of. Yes, I think from our perspective, the key takeaways after this entire thing is the hows are around how do you encourage play at home, around home, how do you limit screen time, and the solutions to that. Play together weekly, how do you encourage your school to focus on sport in an inclusive manner for all kids, not just the make sure participation is valued more than play for the sake of play and fun. Go to see a match together. Look after your own health and well-being. Stay active, and that's one important piece of inspiration as well. And in that context is where we also wrote this book called Get Kids to Play, which is what this is. Have a look at that. That has some toolkits that might help parents solve some of the issues as they try and navigate this challenge of where does my child play, when does my child play, how do I balance academics and sports, what kind of coach, who should facilitate it, what does my child want, and how do you kind of balance this whole thing together. Yep. So I hope this has been useful. I hope some of the data we presented has helped people. Some of you understand the value of sport, and happy to answer any questions any of you have.
So I would encourage if anyone has any questions to type it in the chat and we can take it up. I think Maulik has a question. Maulik, would you please type up your question? Would like to try to answer. Meanwhile, let's just go through few of the frequent cues that we got through the survey that we circulated, and I'll just ask you, Saumil, so that
Sure.
people are able to take away from the answer. So one of the biggest concerns of parents is balancing academic versus sports. So we have discussed importance, how sports improve cognitive development, but how do we balance it? Ultimately, it's a issue of time and bandwidth.
Yeah, I think it's an important question, and I'm just trying to figure out. I try to point to. So, the first point in the balancing. Could I share the picture of the book shown? Okay, here. Let me share. It's called Get Kids to Play.
I'll also share
Maybe
a link in the
that's
chat.
right. Link.
For
We'll share a link in the chat as well, Josna ji. To your question of balancing sports and academics, I think there are two pieces, right? One is to start with uh, an agreement with the child in terms of how do you want to balance? Is it for recreational? Is it for performance? Is it for a career? One is what are we playing for? Second, the important piece is how do we make sure that academics doesn't suffer while you're playing sport? And I think that's one very important reset. There is a myth that, oh, if a child is playing sport, academics will suffer, right? Like I gave my own example from IIT Bombay, where there are people who are much ahead of in terms of badminton as well as academics. It's possible to balance. I think the question is, what are you prioritizing or what are you deprioritizing? When you're choosing sport and academics, you need to then let go of some other stuff, right? Whether it's going out, celebration, birthday party, and so on. Some of the other stuff has to go away for this balance to happen. You can't have this and this and this and this and this. So that's one important piece of prioritizing, and that's where adults come in to help the child prioritize. Second is help the child plan, right? Very often the tools that are required or the skills that are required to balance are not with kids all the time. The parents and the kids have to come together in a collaborative effort, and the school, to plan better. Third is flexibility. Very often, as you pursue sport, there's a whole issue of academics, exams, conflict of the tournament timing with your school timetable, board timetable, and so on. And therefore, parent, child, and school have to come together. And that's why this is a very important forum. Have to come together to support the child's sporting experience going ahead. But I think the balance is possible. People have done it. And I think the starting point should be the balance is possible. If these are two important pieces, play and academics, then let's deprioritize everything else and focus on that. The other piece is in the balance is to remember that there is this notion of patience and expectation. When a child gets into sport or play, there's a very high patience from the parent and very low expectation. Over time, patience comes down and expectation goes up. And at some point, your patience is lower and your expectation is high. And that's when the stress starts getting created, where you're expecting the child to perform much, much better, much faster. Your patience is lower, and the child then gets a negative experience. And then that becomes a negative spiral. So therefore, this making sure that from a sports parenting perspective, while in values of respect the elders, religion, everything else, the adults lead and the child follows. In sports and other recreational activities, the child has to lead and the parent has to follow. Then the balance happens.
Yeah. I would also like to add to Saumil's point of prioritizing. When prioritizing, we should also consider short-term goal and long-term goal. In long term, we don't want our academics to hamper, but in short term, we also need to focus on sports. So there are times when exams are coming up, exam time, when we need to focus entirely on exams. But other times when we have some bandwidth, we should definitely try and accommodate, add sports in our life. And even in a long run, we should, in the long run, when we are striving for academic success, we should also keep, in whatever capacity we can, some kind of physical activity or sports involvement, even if getting into that professional level is not possible. So some activity even when focusing on academics.
Yeah, seeing some interesting questions coming. How to remove fear of losing? I think that's a great point, Vijay. I think the important thing is to start with the concept of why are we playing. When the why of playing is only winning, then the fear becomes of losing. But when the why can be reworked to participation, having fun, giving your best, and giving better than your best every single day, and improving 1% every day, it just changes the view from success in the world to success internally. That did I do better? If I was able to kick the ball like this yesterday, can I kick the ball slightly better tomorrow? And so on and so forth. I think that's one important construct. This play to win, unfortunately, has become seen as, if you're not winning, why are you playing? And that has to get pushed back and say, no, you play to win. That's just a positive mindset, but you play to have fun. And as you're having fun, you will win some, you'll lose some. As long as you're having fun and you're doing the best you can and do what you can do on the ground, on the sports play arena, that's the real focus. The competitive sport pressure is a real pressure. I think that's where the parent and the child jugalbandi is important as to why are we playing, what do we want from this experience. And the important thing that we have seen over the last 21 years is kids drop out of sport because of competitive pressure, parental pressure, coach expectations. We need to make sure that they are having fun as they're playing, and as they're having fun they continue playing, and they might even change sports. They might play sport one today, sport two tomorrow. That's the age that we do need to let them, support them in the exploration till they figure out what they really want to pursue. How much time should I spend in sports? So WHO guideline says roughly 60 minutes a day at least from a physical activity perspective, and I think that is a good start. anything more than that. Then the question is balance, and I would look at balance at a, like Ashwini said, over a month or a 2 month period or 3 month period. There will be times when there's academics, exams, that you need to kind of tone down your physical activity, sport time, but there will be time when you can kind of tone it up. But over a longer period, how do you make sure that you have the balance? Reena ji, I'm seeing the message about cough. I'm not a medical expert, but I think it's unfortunate that your child is not able to offer sport. I think I'm not sure if there's a medical context to this from a coughing perspective. Maybe try and change the sport. I don't know if it's dust or grass or something else. Maybe try an indoor sport or try swimming. A lot of people I know who had breathing issues had looked at swimming as a sport or martial arts, which have helped them with overall uh, breathing and exertion as well. But again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, but I would explore other sports, maybe indoors, maybe martial arts. What is best for kids, involving only one's game for long or involving many? I think that's a good question, Dr. Renu. I think the way to see it is, let's think of sports as education, right? Do we teach our kids only history or only biology from class one, only English or only math? No, we teach our kids a whole range of things. We teach English, math, science, social studies, history, geography, and everything. And because that's education, because we don't know, we want to prepare them all rounded for the world. And at some point, they'll specialize as they maybe go into graduation, post graduation. Think of sports like that. We need to expand the range of activities that kids are involved in from an overall development perspective, reducing injury perspective, as well as them sampling multiple sports or multiple activities from like 3.5, 4 till 12, 13 years of age. And then slowly on their own, very often kids start specializing. Then you'll see where the child is pulling for, and that then becomes money. So directionally, involving or getting them exposed to multiple sports is better. Also, from a assuming that the child is not looking at sports as a career, from a social perspective, and I saw it in my own engineering hostel and MBA hostel, because I could play multiple sports, I was part of multiple groups, and I could play multiple sports just because I was fitter than most other people. So I remember being on the ID inter-hostel hockey team and basketball team. I had no clue how to play basketball or hockey, and they said, "No worry, just go run up and down and block the best player on the other side. That's all your job is." Right. So I think as you have the fundamental skills and fitness, you will get pulled into multiple sports, multiple social groups, and therefore, from a social context, as your child goes to the world, there'll be more open groups for the child to get into if they have multiple games exposure than a single one. Ashwini, you had some other questions?
Yes, yes.
How can a
Uh,
child play without any fear? I think that's related to the whole winning losing issue. I think we just need to find a way to. I think I would reword that to how can you get a child to play for fun? And the way to think of fun doesn't mean the child is laughing all the time, right? You maybe run a marathon, you did a tough project, maybe you climbed a mountain. You did not laugh, but you had fun. Fun is when three things happen. The We are pushed, we are fully involved in it, we are connected to the people we're doing it with, and we are pushed slightly beyond the limits. It doesn't mean that we are partying, it doesn't mean we're laughing all the time, right? So how do I make sure that my child has these three components? They're fully involved, connected to people doing it with, and pushed slightly beyond the limits. And there sometimes the way to start is to give the children early successes. Very often when we there's a difference between coaching and teaching. It's a very important difference. The coaching very often in that you see in society today is about producing the next talented athlete, and the coach thinks that you as a parent will be happy if they make a medalist or a Olympic medal or something else out of the child. Teaching requires you to teach from where the child is and make the child grow. They're two very different contracts. Coaching is for talented kids, teaching is for the kids who want to get better, who are still not there. What we need for kids to play is the teaching. That how do we help kids from where they are, whether I take girls or boys, different kids are at different skill and fitness levels. Our teaching has to start from where they are. Imagine me coming into a class of third, fourth standard and starting with integration or Fourier transform as in mathematics. The kids will get scared of math. because I am coming at it from a level which is much, much higher. I need to go to the class 4 level and make them enjoy math and bring them up to where it is. Right. So I think that's one very important distinction. Football makes a child more aggressive. No, it's not true. It's not true. I think maybe the experience or the who they, I think of it as where is the child playing, who is the child playing it with, how is the experience being managed, how is it being facilitated. If at all, football will let your child release a lot of emotions and come out far more positive from a personality perspective, far more positive from an energy perspective, ability to deal with different people, ability to deal with failure, and so on. Observation in India, high net workout, early stage, have negative impact on Western. As it is many workouts are available. Yeah, Bhupesh, I think this is interesting. I mean, this is a slightly more technical angle you've gone into. I just want to bring it back to kids and play. I think right now the real challenge is how do we get our kids to spend an extra half an hour at play? How do we make sure that half an hour is far more positive and engaging? And how can we as parents and schools come together to bring that? But I think for that, both fitness and skill are required. Fitness in terms of both endurance as well as agility, and uh, an overall balance across different parameters is what we look at.
So I'll just like to bring to focus few other Q&As which we got uh, as a part of the questionnaire that we circulate. One of the biggest concerns was the lack of interest from the child. So, Saumil, how would
Yeah,
you address that?
that's an important piece, right? I think, and I'm seeing internet surfing and so on as well. I think we have to ask ourselves why are kids not playing, right? And also ask ourselves why do they do what they do. I think there is this notion of engagement that is available in, let's say, what we call internet surfing, YouTube or Instagram and so on, which we feel is not available in the physical play, or the kids feel is not available in the physical play. Why does that happen? One reason it happens is that we have not given our kids the right fitness and skills to engage in that activity before they engage in it, right? Whether it's gaming or anything else, it starts at the child's level and then you build up. That's why that those gaming games are so addictive, because they start at the level you are at and they let you do it again and again till you get better. How do you make sure we get the same experience in the sports side? Is to make sure that the way we see it is inside the school, all kids get the fitness and skills required to engage in play, so that when they go to a playground, they're confident of their abilities. It's like saying, you know, let's say I'm the English teacher in class 3 or class 4, and I show up with Shakespeare and say, hey, here's the Shakespeare textbook, all kids please read it. Now, the kids who are naturally at home reading English at a high level might manage it, but everybody else will say, hey, English is not for me. So I need to start from there. So, how do you make sure the early success happens by teaching the right fitness and the right skills for kids to have fundamental aerobic capacity, anaerobic capacity, upper body, lower body strength, hand eye coordination, manipulative, non manipulative skills, so that when they set foot onto, let's say, a basketball court, they have the endurance to run up and down. They know how to catch a ball, they know how to throw a ball. When this comes together, magic happens on the ground. The problem that's happening today is we are asking our kids to go play sport, but we haven't told them the fundamental fitness and skill. We haven't taught them that. So when they go to the playing field, they have a bad experience because the naturally talented kids outperform and nobody's taught them how to play basketball or how to kick a ball. And therefore they come out and say, I would rather surf the internet or watch YouTube. It is the adult's responsibility, a PE teacher's responsibility, or the parents' responsibility to make sure that the kids have the fitness and skill and play at their level. They start at their level, then you go up. You can't say my child is 13, therefore they will play. If a child's play level is lower, start there. That will be more sustainable because the child will then have fun, they'll enjoy it, positive experience, and a positive cycle. What's happening today is there's a negative cycle. Kids are switching off. So if you make play engaging, I'm pretty sure the amount of time they spend on screens will go down.
I'd also like to add to Samuel's point, like if there is an inherent resistance or uh, the child is not interested to go out and play, you can encourage it. You can take the child with you to participate in a physical activity, maybe a weekly session together.
Yeah, I think there is another aspect as well, right? That aspect is that sometimes the child sees that it is too difficult and therefore doesn't engage because to preserve their own self-image.
Hmm.
To say, hey, actually I didn't even bother to do it, but actually it's too difficult. So how do we make sure that the child has the same skills? Other side is too boring. The child might have a higher skill, and the activity you're giving is too boring. The fourth is peer pressure. We found that kids play very often because their friends are playing that game. To figure out how do you get a group of 5, 10 other kids of the same age group. Girls, for example, play a lot more because for social engagement, whereas boys play a lot more physical exercise and physical expressions. The reasons why girls play is very different from the reason why boys play. Girls don't play very often because of how boys will tease them very often in schools because of uniforms which are not necessarily conducive to the level of play they want to do. So there are a lot of other smaller pieces around the kids that is hampering the participation. It's not just the child not wanting to go out is the outcome, is not the starting point, right? The outcome is child is not going out. The input is something happened. The child doesn't have the fitness, doesn't have the skills. His friends don't want to go. He doesn't feel recognized for it. Maybe he feels that he got a poor experience upfront, and because of that, this is the outcome. So don't start with the outcome. Let's start with what happened. Input, change the input, and over time we'll find that kids. If we've seen programs where in the beginning only 5, 7 girls are coming out to play, and then it went into 500 girls playing football all because we started with where the girls were. We asked them what is their concern. We got them to play separately because they didn't want to play when the boys were playing. There are a few very small things, but those small things go a long way to get kids to stay engaged on the game.
In the interest of time, I'll just bring out few things that we came across, but we are not able to cover up. And we have a series of webinars already recorded and up on YouTube, and I'll post the link in the chat. The few points were career opportunities in sports, um, teenage girls not able to hesitant to participate or starting to push out of leave sports, or how to pursue further on higher level in sports. So these are topics for a longer discussion, and the discussions that we have uh, recorded and is already available on YouTube. So it's a sports parenting webinar series. So I'll just post the link of the whole webinar playlist in the group. You can watch if you have any specific questions that the webinar should be of help.
Also, Ashwini, our sportsvillage.com website has a lot of white papers around getting girls to play, around the other impact studies. So have a look at that if that helps any of the parents. That's www. Could you just share the sportsvillage website with me?
Yeah. Uh,
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope this was useful. Uh, yep, I guess over to you, Ashwini.
yes. So the
Way to
best way
motivate.
to motivate children to be more physically active is to lead by example. Schedule weekly play sessions together, book an arena, go out, play whatever sport you are interested in, the child is interested in, irrespective of the skill level. It, if not anything, it presents itself as a bonding activity between the child and the parent.
Yeah, and I think I want to add one thing here, and I've had the experience of playing with my kids as well. I think when you go out to play with your kids, remind yourself that the objective is to get the child to be interested in play. Objective is not to teach the child a skill that you feel the child should learn by this age. Follow the child's lead, play the way the child wants to play, and let them lead and take you where they want to take you. Very often, kids switch off because adults impose their notion of play on the child. Play with the child. Over time, the child will stay with sport. Okay, thank you. Oh, you want to play the video?
Yes, so I'll just play a short video on Sports Village. Manasvi, can you help us here? A small introduction of Sports Village.
more about how sports is a part of education.
Every day is a new chapter. Every day, a new exam. Sometimes there are surprise tests. Sometimes challenging group assignments. Just 80 to 90% is not enough. You always have to give 100%. Here, the pitch is your classroom. The scoreboard is your report card. And the timer, your toughest exam paper. Here, every mistake is a lesson learned. Every setback is a stepping stone. There are no paper leaks, no cheating here. The only thing that matters is your hard work. Here, students dream during the day and stay awake at night thinking, how do I get better? The syllabus of a champion is tough. Because the ones who pass it are the ones who are passionate about it. Presenting Sports Village, India's largest school sports organization that is giving every child a chance to play and dream of winning medals for India at the 2036 Olympics. Sports Village, creating champions in life.
Yep, thanks. I think the whole champions ka syllabus is the idea that sports is, and champions in life, not necessarily champions in a sporting career. And we are here to hopefully promote the message that sports can be a great way to produce champions in life. And I wish you all the very best in your all of your journeys with your kids, and to the kids who are here as well. Have fun, play, and keep playing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
As we conclude this insightful session, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Saumil Majmudar and Ms. Ashwini for sharing their invaluable expertise on the holistic benefits of sports in child development. Their practical insights and passion for fostering a love for play have truly inspired us all. A big thank you to all our participants for joining us today. We hope this session has provided you with actionable strategies and deepened your understanding of how sports can nurture not just physical fitness but also cognitive, emotional, and leadership skills. Stay tuned. The Ketan School is committed to bringing you a series of upcoming webinars on a range of essential topics, including nutrition and health, mindfulness, digital addiction, and more. We look forward to continuing this journey of learning and growth with you. Thank you once again and have a great day ahead.